IVF, surrogates, egg donors, blessing or curse of modern medicine. Brooke is a 28-year-old woman. In 2010, she graduated valedictorian of her high school and attended WVU to obtain her bachelor's degree in accounting. At only 23, Brooke was a very successful woman. Soon after graduation, she married her high school sweetheart, Simon. Brooke and Simon have planned their life together for years. They dream of owning a house, having 4 children, and traveling the world as a family. In December of 2016, Simon and Brooke decided that they would try to have their first child together. March came around, no luck. July passed with no sign of a child. When December came, the couple became concerned. A year had passed, and Brooke decided to visit her OBGYN and find out why they weren't having any luck. Her doctor told her that her diagnosis of endometriosis caused a blockage in her fallopian tube, which didn't allow her to get pregnant. They went home and worried about their future. In such a short amount of time, their dreams were crushed. Brooke couldn't help but wonder what was wrong with her. Why did endometriosis choose her? She felt unworthy and broken. All of her friends were having children, but she couldn't be happy for them. She wanted to be excited, but she just couldn't. Brooke stumbled into a deep state of depression. This caused severe tension on Brooke and Simon's marriage. One chilly morning in January, Brooke met her friend Tina for breakfast. Tina was a nurse and the only woman in Brooke's friends group who didn't have children. Brooke expressed her sorrows to Tina, who told Brooke about different ways of conception while being infertile. She mentioned surrogacy, egg donorship, and test tube babies. What were these methods? Brooke was curious to find out. She went home and pulled up Google on her computer and did some research. The first topic she researched were test tube babies. The term test tube babies originated to the scientific relationship to this method of assisted reproduction called in vitro fertilization, also known as IVF. The babies are not literally developed in a test tube. The process of IVF is quite tricky. A woman is given a fertility drug to stimulate egg development in her ovaries. Once the eggs are matured, they are removed from the ovaries by an ultrasound-guided needle. The eggs can also come from an egg donor instead of the intended mother. Regardless of where they came from, the eggs are then mixed together in a petri dish with a sperm sample either from the intended father or a sperm donor. Once this mixture is created, it forms the embryo. Typically, there are multiple embryos formed. The embryo then sits in a controlled environment in the laboratory for a few days. Once the embryos are ready, they are transferred to the mother or surrogate's uterus. The remaining embryos are frozen in case the first attempt fails. In vitro is Latin and translates to within the glass. This term is coined within the glass because of the petri dish in which the embryo is created. More babies are born via IVF than you would think. Over 6.5 million babies are born worldwide through methods of IVF. These babies are what people refer to as test tube babies. The scientific history of IVF is pretty lengthy. In the 1800s, scientists discovered that pregnancy comes from a sperm and egg combination. The first attempts of anything related to IVF was the method of artificial insemination, which is not really related to IVF at all. This method is used when a semen sample is transferred into a woman's uterus via the cervix. The first case of IUI occurred at the Women's Hospital of New York by Dr. James Sims using the sperm of a woman's husband. Unfortunately, the pregnancy ended in miscarriage. In 1884, a physician named Dr. William Pancoast performed the first donor insemination. The donor was a student in Dr. Pancoast's class. Apparently, the student was the best looking from his cohort. The parents were not immediately informed of the sperm being used from a donor. The family found out years later, but they were happy with the news of the anonymous donor. This method of dishonesty would be considered malpractice today, but back then it was a technological advancement. The history of IVF in the 1900s is when things got even more interesting. Doctors began researching the relationship between hormones and fertility. These revelations led to the opening of the first infertility clinic in Massachusetts. The clinic offered many services to couples struggling with infertility. In 1965, the largest discovery to date occurred. Dr. Jones of New York and Dr. Edwards of England fertilized the first human egg in vitro. Dr. Edwards took his information back to England with him and joined Dr. Steptoe to retrieve a human egg via laparoscopy surgery and fertilized it in the lab in 1968. Political opinions were changing throughout the world. In 1975, the first successful transfer via IVF took place in England. This was a breakthrough, but the pregnancy ended because it was ectopic. Dr. Edwards and Dr. Steptoe beamed with pride when the first baby born of IVF was successfully born in England on July 25, 1978. Her name is Louise Joy Brown. She was born healthy, and her birth stunned the world. Newspapers worldwide ran endless amounts of articles praising the doctors involved. The media attention created mixed emotions over the baby known as the world's first test tube baby. IVF in the U.S. took longer to be successful than in England. In 1980, the first IVF clinic was opened in Virginia. Just 1 year later, the first successful IVF transfer was completed in the U.S. And 8 months later, America's first test tube baby, Elizabeth Carr, was born. The breakthrough in American medicine caused scientists and doctors to work at rapid paces. New advances in modern medicine and IVF methods were perfected. Today, IVF is one of the most successful methods of conception, besides natural reproduction. Over 6.5 million babies have been born via IVF since 1978. These scientific advancements have improved the quality of life for families throughout the world. The second method Brooke researched was surrogacy. Surrogacy is when an infertile couple hires a mother to carry their baby when the mother cannot do it herself. Usually, the original mother's eggs are removed and a sperm sample is taken from the father. As long as no abnormalities exist within the sperm or the eggs. Once the embryo is created, it is transferred into the surrogate mother's uterus or fallopian tubes, depending on the health of the surrogate. Surrogacy is also a very controversial topic throughout history. Many lawsuits have occurred when a woman decided to become a surrogate. She is supposed to sign her rights away to the child. In history, there have been many cases where the surrogate mother could not bear to give her rights away, like the case of baby M. In the 1990s, rules for surrogates changed dramatically following the baby M case in 1986. Today, 750 babies are born via surrogacy worldwide. The number of babies continues to grow, as does the demand for surrogates. There are two main forms of surrogacy, traditional and gestational. With traditional surrogacy, the mother is artificially inseminated by the baby's father or a designated sperm donor. This means that the child will be genetically related to the surrogate. Gestational surrogacy mimics IVF, as an egg is removed from the intended mother or donor and is fertilized with the sperm of the intended father or sperm donor. This means that the child is not genetically related to the surrogate at all. The most common method of surrogacy today is traditional surrogacy. At this point, you have already figured out what egg donorship is. Egg donation is when a fertile woman donates her eggs to another woman to help her conceive. This is usually done anonymously. Egg donation is a form of assisted reproductive technology that is used in both IVF and surrogacy. The eggs are removed via a surgical procedure called transvaginal ovarian aspiration. Egg donorship is one of the most successful methods to help parents conceive worldwide. As soon as Brooke finished her research, she picked up her phone and called her OBGYN. Her doctor was very eager to help. The process was lengthy, and there were endless tests, needles, and medicines given to her. There were many failed attempts at reproduction, but the couple did not give up. In May of 2020, Brooke and Simon welcomed their very own test tube baby into the world. Brooke is a fictional character that I created. Her story is not based off of any specific individual or family. Her story was created to share how scientific methods like IVF, surrogacy, and egg donorship enrich the lives of families affected by infertility. I believe that these methods are blessings to modern medicine. Some couples strive to have children, and that may be their largest goal in life. IVF and surrogacy and egg donation do not only make the possibility of having a family available to those struggling with infertility, but it also allows parents of the LGBTQ community to experience parenthood. Although there are side effects to these practices, they are often overlooked for the satisfaction of having a child. Thank you.